The clock on the wall ticked like a countdown to his failure. Daniel sat in his dimly lit room, a single desk lamp casting long shadows against the peeling wallpaper. His laptop screen glowed, an empty document staring back at him, a taunting reminder of everything he had failed to accomplish. His fingers hovered over the keyboard, frozen. He wanted to write, needed to write. But the moment he tried to form a sentence, a dark presence crept into his mind, whispering venomous words that wrapped around his thoughts like chains.
You'll never be good enough. Your ideas are weak. No one will ever care about what you have to say.
The words weren't spoken aloud, but they might as well have been shouted in his ears. They filled the room, suffocating him. He clenched his fists, nails digging into his palms, trying to shake the thoughts away. But they were relentless. His breath quickened. He could feel the doubt pressing down on his chest like an invisible hand, squeezing the air out of his lungs. Every past failure, every rejection, every unfinished story resurfaced like ghosts from the grave, their hollow voices mocking him. He shut his eyes, but that only made it worse. Now, the voices had faces, teachers who had doubted him, friends who had laughed at his dreams, the cold rejection emails from publishers who hadn't even bothered to spell his name right. The battle had begun, and he was losing. Would he fight back? Or would he let the darkness consume him? The storm of doubt raged within Daniel's mind, a merciless tide trying to pull him under. His breathing was uneven, his heart pounding against his ribs like a war drum signaling defeat. But then, amidst the darkness, a flicker of something stirred, small, fragile, but alive. A voice, softer than the chaos but steady as steel, rose from the depths of his mind.
You've come this far. You can do this.
Daniel flinched. The voice wasn't loud, but it struck like lightning through the storm. It was familiar, yet distant, like an old friend he had long forgotten.
Every great writer started somewhere.
Another voice joined in, reinforcing the first. Daniel felt a shift, tiny but undeniable. Doubt had been ruling his mind for so long that he had almost forgotten he had another side, another force fighting for him. But self-doubt was relentless. It roared back with fury.
Those writers were different. They had talent. You're just wasting your time.
Dark memories surged forward, forming an army against him. The unfinished drafts, the stories abandoned halfway, the times he had tried and failed. Each one was like a soldier clad in armor, a reminder of his mistakes.
You always give up. What makes this time any different?
Daniel gritted his teeth. His hands curled into fists. The doubt had numbers, but the warriors of hope weren't retreating.
Failure is just a lesson.
The thought echoed like a battle cry. It wasn't about talent, it was about persistence. It was about standing up after every fall. He could almost see them now, the warriors of hope, their swords gleaming, their armor shining despite the shadows pressing against them. They weren't invincible. They weren't immune to fear. But they fought anyway. And maybe, just maybe, so could he. The war inside Daniel's mind escalated. The battlefield stretched endlessly, a barren wasteland where shadows clashed with light. The warriors of hope had risen, but they were outnumbered. The enemy forces, fear, doubt, and failure, charged with ruthless determination, their voices a deafening chorus of defeat. Daniel sat frozen, staring at the blinking cursor on the screen. A single sentence. That's all he needed. Just one. But every time his fingers twitched over the keyboard, the enemy struck.
You don't have the skill. Your words are weak. Remember the last time you tried? You failed.
The memories hit like arrows piercing his confidence. The short story he had abandoned last year. The rejection email that had stung like a slap. The time his best friend had skimmed his work and said,
"It's okay, I guess."
Each memory was a soldier of doubt, marching forward, forcing him back. His warriors of hope wavered. The voices that had risen to defend him now struggled under the weight of past failures. But Daniel wasn't ready to fall. Not yet. Gritting his teeth, he forced himself to breathe. He reached deep, searching for something, anything, to push forward. Then a new force emerged. A different kind of memory. His first story, written as a child, where dragons soared across ink-stained pages. The first time a teacher had praised his work. The nights he had stayed up late, writing for the sheer joy of it. When no one was watching, no one was judging. The enemy faltered. Their dark whispers wavered.
Maybe I can do this.
The thought was small, a mere ember in the storm. But an ember could start a fire. His warriors of hope stood taller, gripping their swords with renewed strength. The battle was far from over, but for the first time, Daniel wasn't just defending himself. He was fighting back. The war raged on, and Daniel was trapped in the heart of it. His mind was a battlefield littered with broken dreams and shattered confidence. The warriors of hope stood their ground, but they were bruised, their armor dented from the relentless assault of doubt. The enemy was ruthless, circling like vultures, ready to strike the final blow. His hands hovered over the keyboard, trembling. The voices of doubt whispered in his ear, growing louder, more insistent.
Give up! Why fight when you know you'll fail? Just close the laptop and walk away. It's easier.
The weight of those words pressed down on him, heavier than before. His chest tightened, his breath shallow. His fingers curled, hesitating, as if a part of him was ready to surrender. And then he moved. He pressed a key. Then another. A word appeared. Then another. A sentence. It was shaky, unpolished, but it was there. The enemy reeled back, momentarily stunned. Doubt, once so confident, hesitated. Daniel could feel it, the tide shifting. He had struck first. He had acted. A fire ignited inside him. He didn't stop. His fingers moved faster, pushing forward like a soldier breaking through enemy lines. The battlefield of his mind shifted, the darkness retreating with every word he typed.
You're not good enough. Maybe. But I'm writing anyway. You'll never finish this. Maybe not. But I'm still trying.
The warriors of hope roared in triumph, their weapons slashing through the shadows. The light spread, breaking through the suffocating mist of fear. Doubt still lingered, wounded but not dead. It would return. It always did. But now Daniel knew the truth. Victory wasn't about eliminating fear. It was about moving forward despite it. The battlefield was still. Smoke curled from the remnants of war, the echoes of battle fading into silence. Daniel sat at his desk, his fingers resting on the keyboard, his heart pounding in his chest. He had written a page. A full page. The enemy had not been destroyed. Doubt still lurked in the shadows, wounded but waiting, ready to rise again when his defenses weakened. Fear still whispered at the edges of his mind, searching for cracks in his resolve. But something had changed. He had fought back. He exhaled slowly, his body still tense from the battle. The war inside his mind had felt as real as any physical fight. Every sentence he typed had been a sword strike. Every doubt he pushed past had been an enemy slain. His warriors of hope, battered but victorious, stood tall within him. He looked at the words on the screen. Were they perfect? No. Did they need editing? Absolutely. But that didn't matter. What mattered was that they existed. That he had created something despite the voices telling him he couldn't. Doubt stirred once more, its voice slinking back in.
It's not good enough.
Daniel smirked. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it never would be. But that no longer mattered. Because the real victory wasn't perfection. It wasn't about silencing doubt forever. It was about writing anyway. About choosing to fight, even when the war seemed unwinnable. He straightened his shoulders, cracked his knuckles, and moved his fingers back to the keyboard. The battle would come again. He would still struggle. But now, he knew something the enemy didn't. He wasn't afraid to fight anymore. Days passed, but the war inside Daniel's mind never truly ended. Doubt was persistent, lurking in the corners of his thoughts, waiting for a moment of weakness. Some nights, it returned with a vengeance, whispering the same old poison.
Your writing is mediocre. No one will ever care about your words. You should quit while you can.
But something was different now. Daniel was no longer unarmed. He had learned the secret. Action was his weapon, persistence his armor. Each day he wrote, even when the doubt screamed louder. Then, the first breakthrough came. An email. A small literary magazine had accepted one of his short stories. It wasn't the bestseller. It wasn't life-changing. But it was proof. Proof that he was not a fraud. Proof that his words had value. Doubt tried to twist the moment.
It's just luck. A fluke.
But this time, Daniel laughed.
Then I'll make my own luck.
He muttered and kept writing. Victory, however, was never permanent. With every small success came new challenges. He submitted more stories, sent out query letters, applied for contests. And then rejections. Dozens of them. Some were polite, others impersonal, and a few stung like daggers.
Thank you for your submission, but it's not the right fit.
Your story lacks the emotional depth we're looking for. We encourage you to submit again in the future.
Doubt saw its chance. It struck hard.
See? You don't belong here. Real writers don't get rejected this much. This is the proof you needed. Give up.
The shadows loomed again. This time, Daniel almost listened. Almost. But then, he looked at the greats, writers who had been rejected 100 times before their first success. He read about J.K. Rowling's 12 rejections, Stephen King's pile of no's, and countless others who had faced the same battle. Rejection was not failure. It was training. Daniel straightened his back, clenched his fists, and whispered,
I'll submit again.
The enemy roared in frustration. The warriors of hope cheered. The siege had failed. But battles are rarely won without sacrifice. One night, after another particularly brutal rejection from a publisher he had been dreaming about, Daniel felt the weight of exhaustion crash down.
What's the point?
He muttered to himself. He stared at his laptop, at the dozens of unfinished stories, the half-written novels, the characters waiting for their chance to be heard. He had poured his soul into his work, and yet, it felt like the world didn't care. The doubt slithered back, quieter this time, almost soothing.
Maybe it's time to stop. Maybe this isn't your path.
The thought lingered longer than before. For the first time in months, Daniel didn't write. One day turned into two. Two turned into a week. The warriors of hope, once strong, stood in silence. But they weren't gone. They were waiting. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. A message from an old reader, someone who had stumbled upon one of Daniel's self-published stories.
Your story helped me through a dark time. Please keep writing.
Just like that, the embers of hope reignited. Daniel's heart pounded. His hands trembled, but this time, it wasn't from fear. It was from realization. The battle had never been about fame or fortune. It had never been about proving himself to critics or publishers. It had always been about the words, about the people who needed them. Rejection could not erase that. Doubt could not erase that. His mind cleared. His warriors of hope rose again, stronger than before. He had not lost the battle. He had simply been gathering strength for the next fight. With a deep breath, he opened his laptop and typed. And this time he would not stop. Daniel would go on to face more battles. More doubt. More rejection. That was inevitable. But he had learned the truth. The war in the mind is eternal, but surrender is a choice. And Daniel had chosen to fight.